Hello and welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, your favorite tech, gaming, and Linux podcast. This episode was pre-recorded, but will be released on YouTube, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Please like, rate, review, comment, subscribe on whichever platform you prefer to listen or view the show. We really appreciate it. So, just before hitting record, we were talking about what we've been doing in the hiatus, in the break between this episode and last, and I believe there may be some similarities between our two activities because, see, I just got back from I have to admit, brutally boring trip to a ranch in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and I'm visiting family, and I'm sure my in-laws would say they don't live in the middle of nowhere, but trust me, you live in the middle of nowhere. You don't know it, but you do. And it's all a matter of perspective. And you've been doing some cabining.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we've going out, staying in a cabin by a lake and going on the boat and all that kind of fun stuff.
That's at least there's with a lake there's kind of something to do, you know.
Oh, yeah. So there is a lake here.
Yeah.
But the one with my in-laws, I have no idea what's going to be there. Like, I've never been to this area.
Okay.
Apparently there's an elk museum. I don't know.
An elk museum. Oh, boy. I can't wait to go to the elk museum. What?
I know. I'm like, I don't exactly know.
Yeah. What exciting weekend, like what exciting antics can you get into at the elk museum?
Apparently, there's a 4D movie about it. I have no idea what that
4D.
is. Yeah, 4D.
4D.
You get snowed
elks,
on and
baby.
everything.
Dude, that's hilarious. Yeah, I you know, a few years ago, my wife and I, when we were younger, we used to always go on vacation to big cities. We went to New York like 3 or 4 times in the first 10 years we were married. And the last time we went, I told her I wasn't miserable, but I really wasn't relaxed. And I was like, I got to go right back to work. And I was telling her, I was like, we're getting too old to be doing these like exciting, city slicker vacations. We need to go somewhere where we can actually lay down and rest and I can read a book. And then when I go back to work, I feel refreshed and like, I've cleared my head and ready to take everything on. And so our solution to that has been cruises. We've been on several cruises the last couple of years. And what I like about them is there's like nothing to do. Like basically what you have to do all day is to eat free food and lay down and read books, get in the pool whenever you get too hot, and then go back to reading and laying down. And that's all there is to do. That being said, I feel like I can do that on the ocean, but I feel like if I'm in a cabin, like in the middle of nowhere, I don't know. That just doesn't seem like my vibe. I just don't think I could get into it.
I see where you're getting at here.
Even though the activity is kind of the same, I think there's a difference in vibe.
I don't see that's I kind of grew up in the woods. So I'm kind of used to that kind of thing. Like I had a 10-acre field in my backyard that's all I saw. No houses, nothing.
Wow.
Woods on the other side.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of used to that. That's how I grew up. And
it was going back home for you.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, if I wasn't married and we didn't have to like go places and whatnot, I could live in the cabin in the woods as long as I had a remote job.
Okay,
I'd be totally fine with that.
Okay, yeah, I was visiting family in Texas and there was nothing around, and my brother-in-law kept complaining that he thinks that people are stealing his Wi-Fi, and.
Wait, let me clarify. Stealing his Wi-Fi, like connecting to it, or stealing his routers?
Yeah, stealing his Wi-Fi, and I was telling him, unless there's a white van out in front of your house, there's no one stealing your Wi-Fi. There's no one. There's no one around.
Is there an FBI van on your list of Wi-Fi access points?
You have an amazing router. If someone is stealing your Wi-Fi, trust me. Trust me on that.
What prompted him to think this?
Oh, so here's the funny thing. God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. Here's the funny thing is. He has a Plex media server. Remember, I sent you a few messages about it while I was there.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about now.
I had to help him set up a new hard drive array for his already existing like 19 terabyte array or something because he has a huge Plex server, and he's sharing it to people in his family. He's a smart guy. He's a tech savvy guy. He thinks he's not, but he really is. He's way above average.
Gotcha.
And he's sharing it with people, it's all family members. He doesn't like share it like publicly or anything like that. But people like all over the country like use his server. And so he's essentially running a Netflix out of his house. And so his internet sometimes is a little choppy.
Yeah.
But he thinks it's because of the neighbors like 2 acres over.
That's great.
Yeah. So I spent a week helping him with that. And then whenever I came back home, this is the real reason we haven't done an episode in a while. When I came back home, I got an ear infection. And then when I got over that ear infection, well, it never would go away. They kept giving me antibiotics and it wouldn't go away. Well, it turns out, and I'll go ahead and say before I even get too far into the story, I've already gotten the results. I don't have cancer or anything like that. But there was a short period of time where I was worried about it because there's a lump. It's still there, like deep inside my ear canal, like right up against my.
Does it like affect your hearing at all?
So I have tinnitus, but it's from playing music. Like I've you know,
I have it too from doing landscaping and hunting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like if I'm like in a quiet room, it bothers me, but like otherwise I don't really notice it.
Yeah.
And I am kind of hard of hearing on my left side. I've noticed that when I use headphones, like my left ear, I would think it's not working. And I take the right ear out, and then only with the right ear out, I could tell that, okay, yeah, it is working. It's just not as loud as the other ear. But again, I related all this to playing music. You know, I played in heavy metal bands and small rooms and like
no ear protection. You know?
Right, exactly. No ear protection. I just assumed that this, you know, I just screwed my ears up. And well, it turns out I have like a lump. He gave me the name for it, and I started with an H, but I can't think of what it was now. But it's some like cellular mass in my ear, and I had to get it cut and a biopsy done. And so while waiting on, I had to actually get a CT scan on it before they did the biopsy.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I think the CT scan was to make sure that it wasn't connected to my bone at all. It was like just, and it's not. It's just.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of like having bone growths like that. You know, Yeah,
in my case, it was not. It's just on like the skin or fleshy region inside my ear, I guess. But anyway, the biopsy came back negative, so thank God. But yeah, so apparently I've had this for like a while, and I just never knew it. And the only reason why we found it was because of the ear infection, and because of this lump in my ear, I'm more prone to ear infections because water can get trapped behind it and against my eardrum. But otherwise, because I'm just going to live with it. I'm already used to not being able to hear out of that ear. So I'm not really going to get rid of it.
You know, as long as it's not affecting you physically, like to the point where
it's so deep in my ear, like even now, like, you know, I don't.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it was there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so deep. And that's another weird thing is like when I was going through all this, it's like no one knew anything was going on. Like if I had like skin cancer or something like, you know, somewhere on my arm or something like that, then I would at least have something where I could be like, oh yeah, I had to get this thing cut off. You know?
Think about inside the ear.
Yeah. No one's like I guess your doctor looks into your ear, but I don't go to a doctor regularly. I only go when I'm sick. And so, and maybe that's the thing is like I'm getting to an age now where I probably just need to start going to the doctor regularly.
Yep.
And getting like regular checkups and stuff instead of only going like I don't have insurance. I basically live my whole life without insurance, and so
I know.
only go when I'm sick.
I know. It's
and
crazy.
Our parents were the same way. Yeah, our parents were the same way. So like we grew up in a culture. I'm assuming you're the same. I don't know, but we grew up in a culture where it's like you don't go to the doctor unless you're sick.
Oh yeah. Is your leg still attached? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. So for obvious reasons, I didn't want to stick even over the ear headphones. It would have been really annoying after they cut the thing out of my ear. It'd have been really annoying to like listen to anything that close. But yeah, so I mean, I guess they removed enough to do the biopsies. I don't know how much is still there. I haven't seen it. My mom. The funny thing is, my mom actually works at the doctor's office. Oh, okay. And so she said she looked at it. She said it wasn't that big. I'm telling you, whenever he was cutting, I felt like he was taking a potato out of my ear. Huge. She said it was like really, really tiny.
Oh, man.
But anyway, we're back now. And
everything's fine. We're good.
Yeah, everything's fine. We're good. I'm actually glad that we didn't do a show before they cut it out because I was so worried that it was going to be cancer. I know. And I was overreacting.
He just texts me, "Oh, by the way, I have this lump in my ear, and it might be cancer." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I was kind of feeling myself for a few days. I was really worried about it, but the doctor never said that he thought it was or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now I have a very pan-faced doctor. He didn't give me any reassurance that it probably was not, but he
he wasn't just, like, oh no.
yeah. But anyway, there is an awesome humble bundle going on right now that I think I'm going to have to partake in. The Learn Godot one is the one that I'm most excited about. So there's two going on right now for indie game creators. One is Learn Godot 4.3, and it has complete course bundle, and it's got, man, I don't even know how many courses
I don't even know how this came out because 4.3 just dropped.
Yeah, it's the new version. I mean, .3, yeah, it's the new version. And they have, there's a Sudoku. These are all like tutorials. So like you actually do this and come out the other side with, a product of what you just learned.
Yeah, and there's like good stuff like battle mechanics and stuff like that. That's where I need to know because like that kind of stuff baffles me. Like enemy AI, that's like, whoa. That's why I like turn-based games because you don't have to think about the AI as much.
So when I was doing Unity, I would use asset packs that had all this built in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would use an asset pack for enemy AI or that sort of thing.
Okay. I didn't even know you did that. Yeah, I thought
the beautiful thing about Godot is you learn to make all this stuff yourself. So like there are assets and stuff made by the community, but in Godot, you're really encouraged to build things from scratch, which I think you really learn a lot that way. And so they have create an open world survival game in Godot 4. So that's just one of the little
there's
courses.
Like what, 30 of them?
Yeah, there's at least 30 here. There's a construct a crafting system in Godot 4. That sounds like something you'd be interested in, a crafting system.
100%.
They have develop a combat system in Godot 4.
Yep.
Make an island survival game. Sudoku, that's the one I said earlier.
I should probably start with Sudoku.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we'll start with Sudoku and work our way up from there.
I'm not into the 2D platformer. Like,
me neither.
That never appealed to me. But I always kind of thought of making one just because they're easier because you only got 2 ways to go.
Yeah. So let's see. There's 3 on each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10 rows. So 30 items. Oh God, it says right at the top, 30 items.
Does it? Oh, I didn't even know that. I just guessed 30.
All right,
it does.
That lump was attached to my brain, apparently. Build a micro turn-based RPG with Godot 4. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here. So I'm definitely going to get that. It looks like a really cool way to learn.
They actually have some straight up just game design.
Yeah. So like you could make something with this and then change all the assets and artwork and stuff for your artwork, and you could build.
That's what I've actually been doing with the tutorial I've been following. Is I'm just instead of what he's using, I'm just using what I want to use.
What is the complete Godot for Unity developers course? Oh, I guess this is what I need. If you're a Unity developer but you want to switch to Godot, apparently
that's super popular right now because Unity's like in the trash.
I know. I quit talking about game development much on the podcast because it's like I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I'm using Unity at this point. I feel like we're like the open source bros. We're supposed to be supporting Godot, but every time I start a project in Godot, I just fall back to like what I already know. So. Yeah, this is awesome. So for $25, you can get the 30. You can get the 30 item bundle, which comes with everything. If you only pay, so there's a 5 item bundle. If you pay less than $25, which will give you a pixel art with GIMP for beginners. This is how to make pencil art in GIMP. A mini projects book. It seems like you really should go for the $25 bundle.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 5 and 2
5 and 2 are not the best.
Not enough. Not enough. If there was like a 10 and it gave me most of the ones that I want, I'd be like, I'll go for that. But no.
Yeah, the cheaper one is Intro to Game Design, Explore Storytelling for games, and then there's the pixel art, and then there's just some mini projects. So I think you could probably get that information from YouTube, but go up to the 30 item bundle for $25.
You can probably get all the information from YouTube. The problem is with YouTube is you got to figure out what version of Godot they were using. Are they using C#? Usually not, but are they using GD script? Who knows?
What I found when I was doing Godot, I was making a first-person controller for a game idea, and what I found was that each like YouTuber did it a different way. And so like you would watch each one, and I at first was only following their example like exactly.
Yeah. And
then after doing that with several different examples of several different YouTube creators, then I started seeing, okay, well, this guy does it this way, but I really think I prefer this other way, but there's certain things about the way this guy, and so you can kind of piece
mix
together.
And match them.
Yeah, you can kind of piece together like a new amalgamation. Whereas this, I think, is going to be more like a textbook tutorial where it walks you through the steps and you can better understand each step. Maybe we haven't purchased it; we haven't actually tried it, so this is not a review necessarily. But I'm interested. I will probably pick it up. And for $25, it's worth a gamble. The other one is the Game Creator Mega Bundle Software Bundle. And this one has 110 items for $20. Yeah. Holy cow.
I think I said 27 gigs of items.
Man. And this is all assets for RPGs.
Yes. Some are geared towards RPG Maker, others are just general, but you can use any of them for any engine.
Yeah.
Especially Godot. Godot is so versatile as far as what you can use in it.
Yeah. They've got everything here from RPG tile maps to character images, effects, animation, sprites, those storytelling dialogue little people. Yeah. They got those. Yeah, everything you can think
they even
of.
have
There's
the first item. The first item on the list is like a character builder where you can use, depending on, if it's the correct one, you can build your character and all that instead of having to use GIMP or something.
PV games, yeah, this is all really good stuff. This is more genre specific, so if you're making this type of game, but there's a lot of material here.
There's a couple of different like styles of assets, but the main of it is like realistic, like Diablo kind of style.
Oh, there's a lot of isometric.
Isometric.
Diablo,
but like the
early Diablo style.
Art, but the artwork is more realistic looking. It's not
less fantasy, more modern.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a cyberpunk pack.
Yep.
Cool stuff. Definitely the Godot 4.3 will definitely still be going on by the time this airs. The Mega Bundle, I'll try to get the episode posted tomorrow, and if I do, then it should still be going on for a day or two. So go check them out as soon as you hear this, if you want to try to catch that before they go away. Have you been doing any? You've been out in the woods. You haven't been doing much game development, I'm guessing.
I haven't been doing a whole lot. Work's been kind of crazy the last couple of months, and
me too.
And all that. And of course, going out in the woods. But I did start, like I said, a Godot project where I literally just have it coded so that the character can move. That's it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I've done that. Like, I keep doing that and then reformatting my computer and forgetting to back everything up. And then
you'll really know how to make the character move.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I'm getting really good at that part because I've had to do it several times. Actually, this most recent time, I set everything up with Git, so I should be able to just pull it back down.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually tested that theory yet, so because I had it skip some folders in my Git repository because there was too many things in some of the folders because of assets and stuff. So
yeah, I've learned that with Godot. Well, since the 4.3 update, they fixed this. Yeah. But if you try to throw all your assets in the same folders,
Yeah.
or in the Godot folder, it kind of freaks out. That kind of stopped now since they updated it, but I noticed that.
But yeah, I might start my thing back up. I was committed to, I think since our last podcast episode, we talked about this a little bit about how I felt like I wasn't really going anywhere, that I would never complete a game, even if I started one. And even though my ultimate goal was just to learn more about it, it's like, what's the point in learning more about it if I'm never going to produce a product from it? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I said, well, the one aspect of game design that I can do is the artwork. So I kind of like just committed myself to just, instead of, I was spending Sundays working on game dev and working on learning Godot. I've just been spending Sundays just drawing. I got a new drawing tablet, and I've just been drawing like characters for games and things like that. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, well then what, unless someone comes to me with a project that they need art for, what am I ever going to do with this? I'm in the same boat. You know what I mean? So I think I need to figure out like a simple, I'm almost wanting to do just like a point and click, game where I can do the art and it'll just be really simple to get through.
And Godot would be great for that.
I almost want to do like a choose your own adventure comic book kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking about doing a literal RPG, like not a turn-based RPG on Godot engine or anything like that. Like literally I'll make the assets and the story and the rules and everything for a like Roll20 RPG,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
But then that's not really like indie game development. That's like RPG indie game development. But I'm just trying to lean heavily on the art right now because I think that's a place that like I can improve a lot more and have something to show for it anyway at the end of it. But this Godot course, I don't know, maybe I'll lean into that. So, in whatever indie development project we do have going on, how do we, this is sort of the theme of the episode because we have two news stories leading into it and a discussion at the end. How do you pay homage to something without outright copying it straight up? In the news today, before we dive into that topic, we have the first story here is indie game dev baffled after acquaintance clones his game, puts it on Steam, and acts like it's no big deal. Happens every day, bro.
Okay. The first thing I thought when I read this is like, acquaintance copies game. Now, I'd be like, if it was my friend, you, for instance, that just straight up copied my game, I'd be a little more peeved. But it's an acquaintance that you were just kind of like, oh yeah, here's all my stuff that I was, that I was working on. And then you expect just any person to just not, steal anything you have. Like,
so
I'm not trying to
be more angry if it was a friend or less angry.
I'd be more angry if it was a friend because you trust that person, know that person. Why would you tell someone you just met?
I think I would be equally as angry. I think it's but it's more of a personal slight if it's a friend, because then it's not only were they willing to do this thing, they're willing to do it to you, which makes it even worse.
Let me rephrase. I would be equally as angry, yes, but I would also be like, idiot, I shouldn't have freaking told the random stranger guy all my freaking secrets. That's what I mean.
So let me read a little bit of the article. I haven't actually read the whole article yet, but I read enough to get the gist, and they have examples in here. There's an image.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same game.
Yeah, it is.
He changed the colors.
It's strikingly similar. So when he started chatting with Terry Brash, indie game developer Kendanis thought he was just swapping tips with a fellow dev. He didn't know that his new acquaintance was going to take his whole game too. Kendanis. Oh my gosh. He's the good guy of the story, and I can't say his name. Kendanis related the story to PC Gamer over DMs this week and shared screenshots of his conversation with Brash, who did not respond to requests to comment. The two developers first chatted a little over a year ago. Kendanis was a fan of Brash's game Gun Run, And Brash was a fan of Ken Dennis's game Dire Decks, a deck building shooter combo published on itch.io. The developers swapped some coding knowledge, and Brash invited Ken Dennis to his game dev Discord server. A year passed, and then this week, Brash sent Ken Dennis a Discord DM to share some cool news. He'd cloned Dire Decks in a new engine, added some new features, renamed it Wildcard, and put it on Steam under his own name.
Wait, hold on a minute. This guy just straight up comes up and DMs the original creator.
Guy.
It's like, hey, by the way, I stole your game. Oh, yeah, and I'm making some dough off of it, too.
I think this is a sign that the Brash guy truly believed he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Like that, I guess.
Which is kind of appalling, but like I think that if he knew he was doing something nefarious, he wouldn't have reached out to the original developer. He would have just let it ride.
I suppose so. But like, how can you not know this is literal
sketch.
copyright infringement? Even though it's not copyright, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I wonder if the original game was released in some sort of open source license or something like that, and he thought, oh, it'll be okay if I take it as long as I change some things.
Which doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, itch.io, I think you choose the agreement that they're not maintaining that for you, and I think you can put whatever.
Yeah, because I posted my game on itch.io, the other one I was working on RPG Maker.
Yeah. This isn't one of those gray area situations where one game derives its basic design from another, but brings its own look and spirit on the table. The dozens of Vampire Survivor. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of whenever Vampire Survivor is a game. Now it's a whole game genre, but that's what I wanted to bring up in this conversation was basically Vampire Survivor came out. It was like extremely popular. And then like a billion clones of Vampire Survivor now have come out. And some of them are just straight up Vampire Survivor with different assets. Some of them put some sort of new spin on it, but they're all really close.
But like I expect. Something comes out, everyone copies it. Okay?
Something comes out, you see it's successful, and you make your own version of it.
Right. This is I'm just deciding to scroll through Reddit and that guy has a great idea for some invention. I'm going to steal that before he can make any money off of it. That's what I'm seeing out of this.
Yeah. So Candescence was taken aback, flattered perhaps, but confused. He asked Brash if he really thought it was okay to take the art and concept of Dire Decks and put it on Steam under his own name without permission. Now, Brash seems taken aback. He pointed out that the code was original and that he'd redrawn the artwork and asked if Candescent wanted an inspiration credit. And then they've got a quote here. This is a reply from Kendenis. Bro, there's inspiration, and then there's blatantly copying the entire game. So in Brash's argument here is, I didn't just copy your code. I actually took what you made and I rebuilt it in a different engine.
Right.
And I didn't use your artwork. I just redrew your artwork. I just redrew it, but it's essentially the same.
How do you think copyright, started? Yeah. Like they literally had to copy something they saw. It wasn't just copy and paste like on the computer. That's not what copyright means. Right. But it doesn't mean that it's not copywritten or copyright infringement.
Right, exactly. No, this is pretty hardcore, just outright copying. It's not really an inspiration credit, huh?
Yeah, this is pretty. Not. I wasn't trying to be mean to the guy who originally did this or whatever when I first started here, but like this is just wrong. This stuff like this shouldn't happen. There should be something against this specifically.
So the question of whether copyright law protected dire decks came up. Brash wasn't sure it did, but admitted he wasn't a lawyer. So here's the thing about copyright is it's really up to the original IP holder. If it's funny, I got in a conversation with this also with my brother-in-law in Texas. Not about gaming, but about something else. But if the original creator of the game, Kendanis, if he saw this and said, "Oh, this is a great, fan-made, piece of art, and will you just credit me at the end of it, or put some sort of like inspirational credit at the beginning of the game or something like that," then we could start a whole genre of this. We'll start a whole, we'll invite the community to make more examples of copies of my game. Then there'd be no issue here. Obviously, I mean, no one's going to sue anybody because the person that holds the power to put forth a lawsuit is okay with it.
Right.
If you dress up as Batgirl as a cosplay at Comic-Con, technically DC Comics, they could say that infringes their copyright. You are mimicking one of their characters.
Yep.
And, if you decide you want to make a Deadpool version of Batgirl, Batgirl pool, then they could decide, man, we really don't like this image of Batgirl, and they could challenge that in court. Now, it would have to be determined whether you changed enough of the likeness of the character to say that it is something new, that it's no longer their IP. And a Deadpool version of Batgirl, you could win that argument. But if you're just straight up dressing up as Batgirl, I think it would be really hard for you to win that argument if Marvel chose to sue you. The thing is, Marvel's never going to try to sue you for that because it's in their best interest that a bunch of...
exactly.
It's in their best interest that people do that. So they actually encourage it. They're not, but it's all held in the hands of the IP owner. And then there is like the question of like the Streisand effect, where Mickey Mouse gets copyright infringed upon all the time, but yet Disney usually doesn't do anything about it because they don't want to draw attention to it unless it is like extremely, extremely blatant.
Yeah, and that you mentioned that this Danis or whatever, he's mentioned several times about this other game, but he's never said anything about it. Like he's never said the name of it or anything. He just says under another name, which is smart because if he didn't and he started posting about it, people would know about it.
I think they say it in here somewhere, do they? So the game Dire Decks is Kendanis's game.
Yes.
And I'm trying to see if they say the name of the other. Maybe they don't.
I don't think so.
Wild Card.
Oh, yep, I see it. Yep.
And Brash himself called Wild Card. Yeah, Wild Card is the other one. But yeah, I don't think this would hold up in court. They're way too similar. Way too similar. That's the point of what I was getting at. I think that if the art if there was enough different features, now I'm speaking legally, I'm not saying ethically what I think is the right thing.
Right, yeah, legally.
If there was enough different features and the art was different, I think that it would probably win in court because it is coded differently. It is not the same. It's not a copy and paste of the code. It's just conceptually similar.
Yeah.
But if you look at these two pictures side by side, I think if you showed this to any judge, they would say, "Oh yeah, this is way too similar." You outright copied this game, bro. So
come on, but one's green and one's orange.
Yeah, one's green, one's orange. Anyway, that's an interesting scenario. Let's move on to the second news item, which is a similar story, only this time this is indie game dev apologizes for having stepped over the line with taking inspiration. And this is from a Sims style cozy game made by Asset Jesus, which the original game was developed by a developer that if you've done any game dev, you've been to the Kini Asset Pack website. There's a ton of asset packs that are given away for free on this Kini website, kini.nl, and they're great. They're great assets, and they're pretty diverse. They're not all like of the same type of game. But in this scenario, and there's an update to this story too. So I'll read a little bit of the article, but then we'll go back and read the update. So an indie developer whose prolific creation of free-to-use dev tools saw them gain the name Asset Jesus within their community says that they're the latest creator to have their work all but stolen by another developer. Developer Kenny, I'm sorry, Kenny. I'm not going to say your last name because I'm terrible at reading last names. But developer Kenny V is working on a sim-style diorama game called MakeRoom. And he says he's also a prolific asset creator. Again, Kenny Games, you've seen his assets. Well, his game was, he posted on Twitter that it's absolutely disheartening to see my game get copied to such a degree, down to the little sounds. I give a lot to the community, but please don't just copy my game. This just sucks to see. It rips the fun out of being creative. And then he is quote tweeting a game called Flora Corner. And Flora Corner is a game that is using his assets. Mm-hmm. And the game itself is very similar to the original game. And there's an update on this. So in the update, it says the two indie developers involved have settled our differences in a tweet. Hactic apologized, saying that I can definitely understand that I've stepped over the line with taking inspiration, and that it is definitely not my intention to make a ripoff of Kenny's game. They'll be making changes to Flora Corner's visual style over the coming week, while Kenny says that they've offered to help with that process. So it looks like they've come to an agreement. They're going to change the game enough to make them dissimilar.
Yeah.
But this is a tricky situation because, I mean, obviously I'm on the side of Kenny V here, but I still think it's tricky because Kenny's game is already a game that is taking inspiration from a Sims. I mean, he calls it a Sims-like. So it's already taking inspiration from the Sims, though it is very different. If you see it, it's not even close. Like there's not a Sims could not suit, or EA could not suit him for being a Sims. It's not even close.
Right.
And Kenny gives all of these assets away for free on his website and is very well known in the community for being a source for good free assets. And the assets are, this particular set of assets are of a style that lends itself well to this type of game.
Yep.
So if you're using Kenny's assets to make a game and you chose this asset pack, I think it would be very easy to mistakenly make a similar game.
Yes, right. I totally agree with you. It has the same problem. Indie gaming in general has the same problem as the movie industry has, and that's that we're running out of ideas. Not that we are. I shouldn't say we are, but there is going to come a point where there is going to be less ideas to use in specific genres. You know what I'm saying? Like in specific genres, not just at large, because there's only so much you can do with a certain type of genre. You know.
So what I think is going on here, especially in the first example,
I don't think that's what's going on. Let me just phrase that. I just am saying that in general.
Okay. So I think especially in the first example, what I think is going on is, I bet the two developers in the first example, especially the guy that ripped off the other guy's game, I bet he makes, I don't know, going on a limb here, but I'm betting that he makes a majority of his income from indie game development and selling games on Steam. And I think that if that is you don't make a game that becomes, Stray, you're making, and you don't make a game that ever becomes Vampire Hunter because you weren't the first guy to make Vampire Hunter.
Right. So you're making peanuts compared to everyone
exactly.
else.
The guy that made Vampire Hunter, like he's set now. Like that was his success.
Right.
But every Vampire Hunter clone that came after that was some developer that is trying to make the cash while he can.
Yeah.
while it's hot.
Yep.
And I think that there's a lot of this in that world. So much so that if you live in this community, you may kind of think that like this is just what people do. I mean, the quote from that first article was like, "It happens every day, bro," or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's a result of them just trying to make games fast that they know will sell on Steam. They don't need to make $1 million. They're just trying to sell enough,
right?
And they move on to the next thing.
Especially with indie games, and I'm not trying to make light of indie games, but like making them is not. I don't know how I'm going to phrase this.
I know what you're saying.
It's not that hard, I shouldn't say, but it takes so much time that you need to get things out quick. So like,
right. Yeah.
Copying, for lack of a better word, is like, the fastest route to getting it out,
Yeah, I'll say, yeah. So I think that's what's going on here, is that there's a certain sect of the indie game community that this has become the culture in a very negative way. And it's not everywhere. It's not everybody, obviously. But yeah, I think that, and it's also why, like, unless somehow you do strike it big with a Vampire Survivor, like it's really hard to make a full-time income off of indie game development. You have to like be the lucky guy that strikes it huge.
Yep.
Otherwise, this just needs, it's just.
Or you have to have a team behind you.
I think you have a better chance of becoming an indie game YouTube creator than you do at actually becoming an indie game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, if you just make games just for the sake of the videos that you're making money off of on YouTube, that seems like a better business model to me.
Because you never have to finish anything.
Games.
You never have to finish anything.
Yeah, you never have to actually finish or market.
Yep. You just keep going on developing, and there might not be an end in sight, but you're still making money.
But I'm kind of losing the track here. But anyway, yeah, in the show notes I have a link to both games, to Flora Corner and MakeRoom, and I totally in both of these cases I kind of feel like the perpetrator, I don't want to say did it innocently, but I don't think they realized the degree at which they were.
Yeah. And there's just one last thing too about this, and that's that, if you don't know the person personally, they might not be socially adept. I don't know exactly how I'd say that, but they might not actually know what they're doing. Like they might think, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that's everyone, but there's certain people that just don't quite understand the social conundrum that this creates. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's definitely one avenue that could have happened in this scenario, especially the first guy, the first article.
The first one, yeah. So, the philosophical topic here. How do you take homage without outright copywriting, without outright copying the indie game?
Step one. Don't copy the assets.
Well, you could say step one, don't copy the assets and write your own code. But in the first example, that guy did that. He copied the assets a little too similarly, way too similarly. But the argument could be made. He made all new assets, and he made all new code.
So, he's just got to make it into a shoot. What the heck was that big fad that was like a couple of years ago, where they were trying to make money off of photos and crap, like digital stuff.
This. Oh God, we've already forgotten.
Man, I cannot remember what the heck that was.
Yeah,
but they like digitally tag the stuff.
The Bored Apes and all that.
Yes. But they like digitally tag the stuff, and then they you got the original copy of that item.
Yeah,
or the only one that should be out there.
So they would make the argument that because of the contract or whatever they call it, that this would be a solution to that problem. But yeah, it's just overcomplicating the solution to the problem. Yeah, I think that truthfully, it's in it whether you took homage or outright copied, is really in the eye of the person that made the original development.
That is true. Yep.
But we could say that the way that you protect yourself from it is trying to have an original idea that you can add to this thing, or, you're trying to make something different, but that has some similarity to the thing. So I'll give you an example. You and I we joked about something on the podcast, but I truly was like, I might actually do that. And that was making a Dino Crisis ripoff.
Oh, yes. Okay.
and I thought, dude, people love Dino Crisis. The company that made Dino Crisis is not out to make another one anytime soon. Although with the success of the Resident Evil remakes and hopefully the Silent Hill remake is good, and like maybe there's a chance that they could decide that, man, all these old survival horror adventure games are making a comeback. Maybe we will resurrect that old franchise.
That'll be your luck.
Yeah, I know, right? Right as mine is coming out, the real thing will come out. And I wasn't going to make Dino Crisis, but I was going to make disaster Dino Disaster. I was going to make
Dino
a game
Panic
that was so similar. That was so similar that it was nearly a blatant ripoff, but almost to the point of parody. Like almost to the point that it's like not hiding what it is. So in that way, it is something new.
That is a good point. What about the parody laws? There is laws about parodies.
Yeah.
So like if you're making a parody, So
in order to make it a parody, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that in order to make it a parody, you have to be making some sort of social statement in your parody. Okay. And then it's protected by free speech, because you're saying this is a statement on this thing. If you just outright draw Mickey Mouse on a t-shirt and try to sell it as a Mickey Mouse shirt, that's copyright infringement. If you draw Mickey Mouse as a vampire sucking the blood of the Statue of Liberty, that is now
then you
satire.
Get in jail for a whole other reason.
That's satire, and it may get challenged, and Disney has enough money to tie you up forever. But it ultimately would probably win if you were able to fight through it.
Right.
So there's a satire clause, basically.
Right.
And so if you go to the point of parody, you could say, well, I'm satiring Dino Crisis by making a game that has a different storyline, but it's maybe a little hokey and campy, sort of making fun of the original storyline. But otherwise, most of the gameplay aspects is the same. Then you could probably get away with saying that is parody or satire. But ethically,
right.
Aren't you just copying? Aren't you just ripping off the original game?
Pretty much.
Making something new? I think in my example, I think it might be ethically justified, because as a Dino Crisis fan, you'll probably never get another Dino Crisis, unless somebody does this. But yeah, I think it's pretty thin.
Yeah, no, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, another example that I thought of was, and I think this is a good example, the game that I was originally trying to make, but I never got far enough along in the process. The game I was really originally designing was a game that pulled from games like Metal Gear Solid and even to some extent Dino Crisis, but didn't involve anything in Metal Gear Solid, didn't involve anything, in Dino Crisis. It was a completely different game. It actually was, you and I talked about it. It was the penetration tester idea. So you're a pen tester. You're hired to break into some corporation, and then whenever you break into the corporation, you realize things have gone awry, and you're now involved and entangled in this mystery involving this, possibly evil corporation. And the things that I was trying to pull from Metal Gear was it could be like a sneaking mission game where you're having to break into this place silently. Once you get inside, there's some sort of security that you have to hide from, but not stealing every aspect of Metal Gear. And there would still be new things that I could introduce that wasn't in Metal Gear. Like you could actually take real penetration testers, tools, and different methods that they use and work those as puzzles into the game.
Linux or Kali Linux USB drive.
Yeah. I still really like this idea. I just think that I'm not. I got a long ways to go down the game development path to do it. I think that could be done where it shows enough similarities that fans of one may also be fans of the other. While it's completely, but in the same time, it's completely different. It's not the same thing. What do you think about that?
I mean, that could definitely work. I could see that 100% working.
What do you think the key is? Like how different does something have to be from the original?
That's what I'm trying to get at, because it's like, okay, so you copy the assets, right? Okay, but you come up with a whole different story. Is that fine?
Now the thing is like if we look at the Kenny Games versus this other guy story, I don't think he was upset that the guy used his assets. He gives all his assets away for free.
Right.
It's the fact that the guy used those assets for like essentially the same game as him. And that's why it was an issue.
Right.
If I guess, if someone made a Solid Snake-esque asset and they, released it for free, do whatever you want to with it. But then I used it in a game that was a ripoff of Metal Gear Solid. that's probably overstepping the lines.
Yeah, that would be definitely overstepping the
bounds of a little bit.
Oh man, yeah, because I think of games like Pokemon, for instance, that's been copied a million times.
There's a million Pokemon, but that's a game. So, but at a certain point, a game becomes so popular that it transcends its title and becomes a genre.
You'd think that, but Nintendo come after them pretty hard.
Oh well, Nintendo is again. It all goes back to the original owner, and Nintendo is notorious.
But what I was trying to get at is there's a version. Now I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what the heck the name of it was. Anyway,
you're not talking about the game. I can't think of the name.
I was playing it a while back. It was nuclear version or something like that. Radioactive version. I can't remember exactly. But anyway,
I'm thinking of something different.
So all the game mechanics were the same pretty much.
Yeah.
Because it's Pokemon. But the story was totally different. Pokemon would never make this story in a million years because there's so many dark, topics. And I'm like, well, can they really come after him? I mean, this guy, he did all of his own art. He made his own story.
It might fit into that satire model.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think, but they still tried to take him down.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of those cases where just they know they have more money.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother subject of the just corporate bullying. If something is, here's the real scary thing about all this stuff is there's plenty of situations where you can be in the right and still not be able to afford to fight it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And corporations, they can't afford to fight it. And depending on many corporations will. Nintendo is one that is notorious for protecting their branding in that way. I mean, I don't know how that particular case worked out, but more than likely, that developer either, got challenged and just decided to do nothing, and he got lucky that nothing came of it, or he challenged and Nintendo pushed back, and then he probably couldn't afford to fight it and had to step down. I mean, I don't necessarily know that scenario, but
I don't know what happened with that specifically, but definitely his was one of many that got taken down. Just for copyright infringement.
Yeah,
whatever.
I've always heard that. I've always heard that from.
But yeah, I don't. Man, it's
artwork. A lot of this I know from conventions because I used to do a podcast where we went to conventions. Artwork at conventions. Artists sell depictions of Captain America at their art booth.
Oh,
technically, they're not allowed to do that. Technically, they could get shut down. But Marvel is just not one of those companies that is notorious for takedowns like that.
Right, because they're making so much money regardless. It's not like it's hurting their business.
And it's probably good for them. It's probably it's probably in their best interest to have it.
So that guy and all the people who bought that poster have bought like a million other things that were actually Marvels. So like, why do they care?
Right, exactly. But it's just another example of where it goes back to like, it really depends on the intention of the IP holder. And some people are
how
cool.
spiteful they are.
Yeah, some people are cool and open, and some people are they don't see the forest for the trees, and they're real protective over it.
Yep. But I do see this happening a lot more coming up because there's more and more games coming out. People, like you said, they just want to get them out quick, and they're going to be like, "Oh, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to, change a couple things here, and I'm going to slap it on Steam and see if no one notices."
Yeah, I know. I still think that is wrong. So, I mean, I think that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's funny. We went across the whole gambit of this thing where we've talked about how we think it's wrong to frivolously prosecute in the case of the IP holders, and we also think that it's wrong to just outright copy people's games. Somewhere in the middle here, there's a happy place where we can draw inspiration from each other and share things, but still have original ideas.
Yeah, be decent human beings. Come on, people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to know where that line is, but I don't really have to worry about it because I'm never going to finish a game, so it's okay.
I know.
I would love for this to be a problem for me one day.
If I could just sit down and finish one part of a game every single night.
I'm going to make
that's
Sudoku.
Never going to happen.
I'm going to do this Sudoku thing.
I'm sure that could happen. Although,
and I'm going to release it on Steam just so I could say I did one.
Isn't that like math heavy?
How could we do? Yeah, Sudoku's literally just.
Oh yeah, I'm screwed.
How could we make like hardcore Sudoku like?
Hardcore Sudoku. Like mix Magic the Gathering with Sudoku.
Yeah, somehow we've got to figure out a way to like really gamify this. All right, well, we're at the 1 hour mark on our recording, and so let's get into games we've been playing this week, and then we'll end this show. And I'm glad we got back together, and it was a lot of fun. So, games this week. What have you been playing?
Well, so I've been recently playing Cassette Beasts. It's
Cassette Beast.
Not a Pokemon ripoff at all because it's totally, well, the premise is the same, but everything's different. Everything is different. Like, so instead of capturing your Pokemon with a Pokeball or whatever, you actually wear a pair of magical, I suppose, I haven't finished the game yet, cassette player with headset. And when you put the cassette player on and you put the headset on, you can transform into the monster that you recorded from your cassette player.
Oh, weird. Wow.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. Like, I was impressed by the thought that went behind this.
I truly believe, I'm speaking ethically, not legally here, but I truly believe this is an ethical example of taking homage from something and making it something unique.
Yeah, that's kind of why I put it in here, because not only was I playing it, but it put in right into the story, the topic. Yeah. But I mean, it's got like, so in Pokemon, there's gym leaders, and you have to beat all these gym leaders to get to the end game. Yeah. But in this game, they have this trainers that you fight. The Rangers that you fight. And there's like 12 of them or whatever. But you don't have to fight them to get to the end game. It's just a side quest, but it's basically battles, really.
Yeah. That's cool.
So like, there's a lot of little things that are, it's like, I'll say this. If you buy this game thinking it's going to be a Pokemon like esque game, just forget everything you've known about Pokemon and start playing this game, because you're going to be disappointed if you're going in thinking it's going to be a Pokemon clone.
Yeah, it's made in the 2.5D, which was another thing I was interested in whenever I was trying to learn Godot, where it's tiled like a 2D game, but it has a 3D element of it where things have depth. Yep. I really like that. Octopath Traveler is like kind of the ideal layout of that for me. I think they do it really well. But I like that style of RPG. I like the look of it. Tell me about Prehistoric Hunt, and then I'll tell you about Alone in the Dark.
Yeah, this will be really quick. I mean, this is just I've been playing this one off and on.
I pointed out before we started recording. You have a theme. You always bring up a dinosaur related game.
Yep. So I am a huge fan of Carnivores. If you've never played that game, it's a 1998, dino shooter, whatever. And I always loved that game. This game is basically Carnivores, but you can play with other people.
This is this the game this has been a while ago,
yes.
But you streamed on Discord?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I saw this. It's like Monster Hunter, but dinosaurs. Which
yeah.
Oh man, we keep doing this homage thing. It's that genre game, but it's not the same game.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
And the only reason why I even thought about it today was they're coming out with their August update, and they're going to have the Allosaurus now. It's actually really cool to be honest.
Every week I want a dinosaur game. I love that.
Every week a dinosaur game.
We just keep getting dinosaur games.
But yeah, so yeah, that's a good game to like jump in, do something real quick, and get out. Like if you don't have a lot of time, it's just I say that and then I end up spending like 3 hours just hunting one T-Rex.
Yeah, that's the way I am with Magic the Gathering Arena. Is like I log in every night because I'm like, well, I just want to do something real quick before I go to bed. Then I play a game. It didn't go the way I wanted it, and then I play a game, and then it went the way I wanted it, and I'm like all amped up, and I want to play another one, and then before I know it, it's like 3 or 4 hours have passed. I've been trying to play this 15-minute quickie. So I've been playing Alone in the Dark, the remake, the most recent one. Well, the only one, and I really enjoy it, and I'm interested in this game. I'm interested in reviewing this game because I feel like the reviews I've seen of it have been like, I've not seen anything that says that it's like terrible, but I haven't seen anybody talk about like how good it really is. Like I think it's a really good survival horror game, and it has elements of survival horror that, as a survival horror from the 90s fan that I am, modern survival horror games don't always do what I consider to be the key tenets of the genre. A lot of modern games don't follow those, and this game is like a unique blending of things like backtracking. A lot of modern survival horror, because of the success of the Silent Hill demo that came out, where you're going through the house and the house keeps changing, and then there was games created after that were like kind of knockoffs of that whole thing. Man, we keep going back to this show theme, but like, because of the success of that type of game, survival horror game, and because of new technology, whenever the games in the 90s came out, they didn't have the ability to make those where the environment changes as you go through it. But because of that, there's not a lot of backtracking in modern survival horror. And what I mean by that is, whenever you played the original Resident Evil, you had to go to this end of the mansion to get some key to backtrack and go to this other end.
This door that you couldn't get into like for the whole game. And
right. And I love that. I love that feeling of place and of like distance, and like you have to just keep traversing this maze, and you get to know it like it's a real place. And Alone in the Dark does that. And I think it's something that's missing from a lot of AAA modern survival horror titles. And the puzzles, even in new Resident Evil games, it's like the puzzle is here. The solution to that puzzle is on the path to get to there. And then the next puzzle, the solution or the key or whatever it is to that puzzle, is on its way to the next one. There's no like, oh, I got the key, I don't know what this opens, or I got this weird plate, and where do I put this thing? And and you have a bag full of stuff that you don't know where it goes, and like, I don't know the code to this lock, and that is even lost from even Resident Evil these days. And I feel like Alone in the Dark does that well. There's a lot of puzzles in the game where you'll find something and you're like, well, I don't know how to do this yet, so we're gonna play the game a little bit longer until we find the next pieces, or we find some journal or something where we can solve this thing. And I think it does all that really well. And I will say this though, when you start the game, it asks you, do you want to do old school? It gives you difficulty for the combat, and it gives you difficulty for the puzzles.
Oh, nice.
And I chose the old school. I can't remember how they worded it, but I chose the old school puzzles. So maybe that's why my experience has been this way. And if I had played the more modern puzzles, maybe it's less. I don't know.
That's a really good idea, giving both options, because then you get both aspects of the.
And so my son and I have been playing it. We call it the mystery game because he just came in, saw me playing it one day, and he's like, "What are you playing?" And I said, "Oh, it's a mystery game." And so now every night he'll be like, "Can we play the mystery game?" And we'll sit down and play it. And he loves any kind of like, oh, I got to figure out how to put these pieces together and. This weird occult like language, and we have to figure out what it means or find the codes to get into this. He loves all that stuff, and so he'll sit here and we trade off between who's controlling the character, but then he can't actually do the combat. So when we encounter anything, he throws me the controller, and I have to actually. So one negative review that I see, and I agree with, but to me it's not a detractor because to me it's not a key part of the genre, is that the combat is kind of lacking. And I totally see that. This is not like this is not a combat focused survival horror game. There is the creatures that you fight are these like zombie plant things, like plant zombies.
Yeah.
And you just gun them down. And so this is one thing that survival horror is supposed to have, or to me, and my key tenets of the genre, it should have like limited resources. You should feel like, oh, I've got to save my bullets because I might run out. There's bullets
I got one bullet
days.
left, and I don't think there's any left in the game. So
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, there's bullets for days in this game. I think they do a pretty good balance of like, it doesn't feel like there's endless amount of ammo, but at the same time, I don't feel like a scarcity like I did playing old survival horror games. So maybe for my taste, it's a little too high, but it's not as bad as some modern games I've played where just like, there's just no running out. It's impossible. But yeah, you just gun down the bad guys, and they have like creative ways that you can kill them, but you don't need to. You just gun them down, and I think that is a detractor. Like if they're gonna introduce these creative ways to throw things or to throw Molotov cocktails, you should need to do that. Otherwise, it's like why they even put it in the game. And the way the game is, you don't need it. There's a melee weapon mechanism. I kind of like it. I've seen some negative reviews on it, but I kind of like the way it works. When you pick up you can only carry one melee weapon at a time. So if you pick up a shovel, then you have to put it down in order to pick up a crowbar, you know? And the reason I like it is because, well, it adds to that scarcity factor, but then also there's situations where I prefer one over the other. And so I kind of have to try to predict, like, am I walking into a situation where I want a shovel or, right. And also the melee weapons, they take damage. They don't last. Like
okay. They're dead.
You only swing so many times with them. Yeah. I kind of like all that. I've seen reviews where that's a negative aspect, but I personally, I kind of think it's cool. And I think it's, and also I've never actually played the original Alone in the Dark, but I've watched a lot of video content on it because I'm just interested in the history of the genre of survival horror. And so I've watched a lot of videos on the original Alone in the Dark. And I think that they do a really good job of like, this game feels like the same mansion from the original game. The enemies are different, but they feel like something that could be in the original game, and the characters feel like characters that could be in the original game. And to me, I think they did a really good job of like making it feel like the original game while it's completely different. You can choose two characters to play as so far, most of the way through one of the characters' plots, and I'm going to do the other one next. I have heard that they're essentially the same plot, just different
points of view. Yeah, same destination, just different.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a really good game. I think really good.
It sounds pretty good. Like I used to be into the whole puzzle thing and all that stuff, and it's not that I'm not now. It's just that I don't have the time to spend 3 hours figuring out where this key goes, like you said. And it's like, dude. It's not that I don't like it. It's that I don't have the time to just devote for that and like, spend months playing this game.
Yeah. Well, and also another kind of thing that's like, I guess kind of a negative, although I don't really, it's funny. I love survival horror, but I don't play it for the horror aspect. I don't play it because I don't think any of these games really scare me when I play them. Like I'm not playing the original Resident Evil going, I did when I was a kid, but now I'm not like, oh God, the dog jumped through the window. But the game's not scary at all. I actually would liken it to there's something cozy about survival horror for me. I love just like slowly working your way through an old mansion, solving puzzles. So
you're making it like MakeRoom and Flora Corner. It's in that genre, right?
Right. Exactly. No, there's just something relaxing about it to me where you're trying to find the keys and solve these puzzles and get to the end of this story. I basically these days only play 2 genres of games, and that's survival horror and MMO. And it's hard for me to play a single player game that's not a survival horror. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not excited about first person shooters.
You got your thing. I like that. It's good.
So
I'm all over the place. So,
well, I also like old school RPG style games. Oh, I'll save it for next week. But I talked about buying it, but I had not played it yet. So what's Signalus.
Okay, yeah.
Speaking of survival horror, Signalus is amazing. And I'll do a whole segment on it next week, but it is a great game. I'm playing it on the Steam Deck, and it is perfect it is a Steam Deck game. Like it is perfect for the Steam Deck. And that is a game that does the whole like modern versus classic survival horror very well. But it's a game that it's highly reviewed. Everybody loves this game. So I'm not saying anything nobody knows.
That game. I'm trying to look
Signalus.
it up.
Signalus. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
That's what I thought. Okay, here it is.
Signalus.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember I checked this out.
It's very, very good. Very, very good. I'll actually write some notes on it, and we'll do a segment on the next episode. I'll talk about it. But yeah, I really like it. I didn't take my Steam Deck with me to Texas, and so I kind of quit playing it. I need to start playing it again, but really cool.
Maybe one day I'll get a Steam Deck.
I've had 2 now. I had one, I sold it, and then I regretted selling it, and I bought another one.
Well, yeah, I really want the OLED one, so that's why I'm waiting.
Yeah. My new one's OLED. I don't want to.
Oh, that's so nice.
I don't want to brag about it, but yeah,
it's all good. It's all good.
I sold my original one and bought the OLED.
Oh, I would have done that in a heartbeat, man. OLED.
Well, what happened is I sold my original one with the intention of buying the OLED, and then my air conditioner broke, and I had to use the money to fix the air conditioner.
Yep. And
then, like a month or 2 later, I just bit the bullet and just went ahead and bought the OLED one.
Saving for a house, so
Oh man. Yeah, good luck on that these days.
Tell me about
Holy
it.
cow.
That's what.
All right, well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you not next week because you'll be in a cabin in the woods.
Yep.
But maybe the week after that. And peace.
See ya.